This is Demon Marked, Book 1 of the Venandi Chronicles, an urban paranormal romance series. Written by Sara Snow. Narrated by Selena Salcido and Henry Shader for Hot Ghost Productions. Chapter 3. Georgia. I slept in my car for a few days. It wasn't exactly the high point of my life, and a small part of me couldn't help focusing on the fact that I'd been much better off in the hospital. But I wasn't going to allow myself to remain homeless and jobless. I found a shelter that didn't have any empty beds for me, but they did allow me to use their shower. So I cleaned myself up, put on my nicest clothing, and went job hunting. A little determination in the third largest city in the United States can go a long way, and I found a job after 2 days of searching. It wasn't the best one in the world, working at a customer service call center for a cell phone company, but it would cover my bills, hopefully. And it wasn't enough to get me an apartment, combined with pretty much every dime I had left in my savings account as a deposit. The place was a studio apartment, fit for just one person, which was perfect, because I'd soured at the idea of living with someone else. It was too bad that I didn't have any furniture. I bought an air mattress for now, which doubled as my couch and bed. That cheap air mattress would have been perfect for a camping trip. Maybe camping under a bridge. I wasn't exactly living my best life. At least I was feeling well rested. Which made sense, considering how I'd spent the last couple of months. I had gone through the boxes that Adam put in my car, and it looked like most of my possessions were there. The most important thing in the world to me was the acoustic guitar, and it was the first thing I brought into the apartment after I signed the lease. Without a TV or the internet, there weren't many entertainment options in the apartment. So, I spent the evening sitting cross-legged on my air mattress with the guitar in my lap as I plucked at the strings, easily finding a familiar melody. It was a song that I wrote back when I was in high school. After I bought this guitar, with the money I'd saved up working after school and on weekends, making beds at a nursing home. I couldn't afford lessons, and my foster parents weren't going to help me with that. So, my boyfriend at the time, who was in a garage band, taught me how to play. I spent weeks learning, and started playing around with writing my own music right away. The first one had lyrics, and as I played, I started to sing them. Softly at first, but once I got into it, my voice got louder, echoing in the particularly empty apartment. It was a song about being on the outside looking in, trying to be part of something even though you don't quite fit in. I had poured my heart into those words when I wrote them 5 years ago, and they were just as relevant to my life today. When I went to bed that night, I was already thinking of how I would spend my first paycheck the next week. I hated to plan that out before I even had the money, but I needed to furnish this apartment. Right now, the interior of my car looked like a penthouse compared to this. I lay there on the mattress, covered by a turquoise bedspread, trying to decide between buying a dresser or a TV. One was more practical, of course, but I wouldn't mind having something to do at home while I was too broke to go out. Before I knew it, my thoughts had transferred to images in my mind, and I was lost in a dream. At first, I was shopping in a furniture store, trying to pick out a couch. But every time I tried to sit on one to test it out, it shrank, getting smaller and smaller, until it was the size of doll furniture. Then a salesman would appear and tell me that it was all I could afford anyway. I got angry and left. But instead of walking outside, I found myself walking into the gas station where I used to work. Lisa, the cashier who worked the shift before me, frowned when she saw me, looking at a huge watch on her wrist as she shook her head. "You're late again," she said. "Sean is going to be so mad at you." Sean? I blinked, confused. I had a bad feeling here, somehow knowing that something terrible was going to happen. Lisa just shook her head and walked away. The next thing I knew, I was at the cash register. The place was starting to look like a confusing mix of the gas station and my new apartment. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't pinpoint how. The door opened, and Adam came in with 2 men carrying guns. I tried to back away, but I was frozen in place. I let out a strangled cry. I couldn't move, but I could still talk. "No," I said to Adam. "That's not right. You weren't with them." "Open the register, bitch!" one of the men shouted. Carl. I wasn't sure how I knew it, but that was his name. I tried to do as he said, and frantically pushed buttons on the register, trying to get it open. But none of them worked. The other man, the one who had facial sores that kept multiplying every time I looked at him, raised his gun to my face. This was Sean. I could remember that much. "I'm not leaving without my money," he said, before aiming the gun at my face and pulling the trigger. Bang! The gunshot sounded like an explosion, and the next thing I knew, I was sitting up in my bed, gasping for air as the boxes containing all of my belongings flew around the room. Everything fell to the floor as I gasped. I had tried to forget about what had happened in my old apartment with Adam and Olivia, telling myself that it was not what it seemed, as if it was just the result of an active imagination, even though we'd all 3 clearly seen it happen. It just seemed too far outside the realm of possibility. Now, I couldn't deny it any longer. There was something very strange going on. It was only 4 a.m, but I knew I wouldn't be able to go back to sleep. So I sat up on the air mattress. I didn't know how I was moving things without touching them, but I was going to try to figure it out. My eyes landed on a half-empty water bottle across the room, sitting on the kitchen counter where I'd left it after eating my frozen pizza dinner. Walking across the cool hardwood floor, I grabbed it and brought it back to my air mattress. Taking a deep breath, I tried to focus every bit of my being on that bottle, from the clear liquid inside to the blue and white label. I willed it to move. Imagine it floating up into the air, or even just moving a couple of inches to one side or the other. Nothing. Clenching my jaw, I redoubled my efforts, feeling like I could pop a vein in my forehead as I ground my teeth and concentrated. It was pointless. "Damn it," I mumbled, my frustration mounting. "Just move already!" As I said the word move, I gestured angrily with my hand, then froze in place as the bottle moved just a few feet away from me. No way. Experimentally, I lifted my hand again, gesturing. Nothing moved. I frowned, looking at my hand for a second, before trying again. Was that not the reason that it had worked before? Then, what could it be? I remembered how irritated I was with myself and this whole situation. I'd been frustrated, and the bottle had moved. Maybe? Closing my eyes for a moment, I conjured up a bad memory of something that made me angry. Going from one foster home to another like I had for so much of my life, I had plenty of those. Clinging to feelings of bitter anger and hopelessness, I refocused my attention on the bottle. This time, when I imagined the thing moving, it went all the way across the apartment. I did it. Holy crap! I could hardly believe it. It had been triggered by my emotions. When it had happened at my old apartment, I was so angry. Then, my dream tonight brought up feelings of fear and more anger. It was my emotions that triggered it, which was why I hadn't been able to do it by sheer force of will. Excitement and fear battled for dominance inside of me. This was amazing, and I didn't know how it had come about, but I had a legitimate superpower. But I knew, deep in my heart, that this was dangerous too. If people found out, I'd probably end up in a secret underground lab somewhere. A human guinea pig getting poked and prodded by government scientists. It would put a target on my back. This thing, whatever it was, had to stay a secret from the rest of the world.